Pro Control today, and Pro Control is split into two different kind of product series. We have the R series, which is our single room focused product line, really good for bedrooms, secondary areas, media room coverages. And then we have Z series, which is a whole home product. Today's focus is going to be on the R series. We are working on a Z series webinar, which will be coming shortly. But today's presentation is really focused on the R series. So, kind of why we got to this point, or where we're talking about this. Pro Control's been around since 2011. We've been making remote controls and processors as part of the RTI family for a number of years. Obviously, there's obviously what's going on in the marketplace here with Logitech and the Harmony exit. There's a lot of opportunity. Dealers have been calling us left and right saying, "Hey, tell me about Pro Control. How can I replace the projects that I was doing with your product?" And that's kind of what the gist of today's presentation is. We want to talk about a couple things here, right? Let's talk about real quick. What do your customers need from a remote control solution, and then we'll talk about what you need. Then we'll kind of jump into the product side here. So customers typically are looking for simplicity. They may not say this directly to you, but ultimately, this is what they're looking for, right? They want the one remote control on the coffee table. Simple one button operation that macros are going to deliver to them. And of course, the touchscreen is always a nice factor because it can be customized for them. Simplicity is really king. When you're sitting on the couch, you have a remote control in your hand, and you just simply want to bump the volume up and down. It isn't unlock your phone, go to the app, launch those things. It's always great to have hard buttons on a remote control. Press a button here, press a button there, and get those things going. Price, right? Customers don't want to spend thousands of dollars, on a simple solution in their home. They're very conscious these days, and Pro Control drops right into that price point for them. They don't want to make up the guest room for you, right? They want you to come in, get the project done, get out of their hair, and vice versa. You need to move on to the next project yourself. So those things that we've baked into Pro Control that you're not going to be worried about every time the customer downloads the latest, iOS from the store, that's going to break your system and have issues. So you want that reliability and stability in the system as well. So flip this around, dealers. So we've had a lot of outreach, and the questions that we've been asking kind of, drove this slide really in terms of, what dealers are looking for. And a lot of these things have been, core principles of Pro Control from day one. Obviously the touchscreen, make your macros, have icons as well as customized graphics. Reliability. So you can work a Pro Control system from a basic remote, or you can actually combine this with our processor. When the two work together, they communicate over RF. So now you're not necessarily worried about having Wi-Fi type of issues in the middle of these. It's not necessarily a line of sight type of product, although it could be if you want it to be. But this gives you a great reliable platform from which to build. We can send IR out of the front of the remote control as well as out of the processor. So you have two types of capabilities there. Streaming sources, yes, we check that box. We're Roku ready as well as with the other streaming devices. So if your customer has those, we can actually make a Netflix button, which Vin will show you here in a little bit. Press the Netflix button, take it right to a smart TV, and start playing right on there. We do offer an iPhone and iPad solution as part of this package as well, and we'll talk a little more about that. You can capture IR. While we do have a commercially available IR database, you can also add commands for maybe something obscure, customer-owned equipment, something brand new comes out and the database isn't yet updated. It's something you can capture and not get held up on the project while you're there. And obviously, it's fully customizable, and we'll show you some of those things as we dig further in. Auto programming is going to save you a ton of time. And when I finish babbling here in a couple minutes, I turn this over to Angel. He's going to show you really how fast and how easy a Pro Control system will deploy in basically about 9 minutes or less with everything ready to go. So we auto configure, auto program everything. Then we're going to, if you want to stick around, we're going to dig a little bit deeper and show you how to modify those macro commands, change graphics, some really cool, powerful features of the Pro Control platform. So welcome to Pro Control. As we say, the time is right now. It's time to move your business over to Pro Control. Know that from a dealer perspective, your customer is never going to buy this product and hand it to you and say, put this in for me. We only sell through the authorized dealer channel. So we only sell directly to installers. We don't sell to consumers. You do have a 3-year product warranty with our goods. You do have 90-day over-the-counter exchanges. Makes it really nice. Broadest device support, like I said, it's a commercially available database that we buy that's updated. So we keep in touch with what's going on, and your programming is really, really on the fly. So let's talk about some common applications that we know you run into out in the field that can pose challenges for some of the products out there that exist today. Right. So you've got an application where the TV and soundbar are up on top of a fireplace, somewhere the wires already run. Maybe it's too tough to get back in and run some other wires, or the customer just doesn't want to pay for it. You have an application where the TV and soundbar are in the front of the room and your equipment is not close to that. How do you handle those situations? Well, Pro Control can send IR commands directly out of the front of the remote control, so we can control those devices in front of you. Put the processor somewhere else, that'll talk RF to the processor, and now we're controlling the source components that are in a different location. Bedrooms, media rooms, we can control all of those things. So whether it's a single room solution or you need a full blown media room type of control, we have plenty of capability to handle both sides of that. Here's a big one that I think a lot of dealers really have an opportunity for and really miss using Pro Control for. And we've seen this classically, right? Let's say you're doing a 6-zone distributed audio system with a full-blown automation system. And either here comes room number 7, which means a whole nother chassis or a chassis upgrade to get there, which means now your cost per zone just went from 1,000 to probably 2,000. Or you have a situation where the homeowner says, that's a guest room or an in-law suite. We rarely use it, and I really don't want the people that stay in that room having access to my automation system. What can you put in that room and give me a remote control to control the equipment in there that doesn't interrupt the rest of my system? Bam, here's where Pro Control drops right in. Keep this on the truck. Use it for those secondary rooms that are hanging off an automation system that you really don't want to be part of the main system. Pro Control is an absolute slam dunk for those. There is a companion mobile app. It does work inside or outside the home. So if you have elderly parents and you need to turn things on and off for them as well, you can actually log in, take care of that for them, and obviously make their lives very improved. Sense inputs. These are awesome. Now we can actually have a capability. I have a TV in my exercise room. When I walk by, I can actually tap the manual power button. Now, normally that would kind of mess up a lot of systems in terms of what's synced, what's on, what devices. But we can actually take a sense input into our system and actually trigger a macro and get things synced up. So sense inputs, there's a lot of capability. If you want to have it to where a receiver kicks on or a projector kicks on, you want to run a macro string, we can do those things for you as well. Additional things we solve: intelligent. Let's say you have a source that doesn't have discrete IR commands and it only has toggles. We can actually program the system to track what state a device is on or off. So we have that capability. So very intelligent built in. The remote is not reliant upon a cloud infrastructure for day-to-day operation. Now, you can obviously go into this with a processor, connect over Wi-Fi or hardwired Ethernet, program the remote, set things up, and kind of walk away from there. But we're not relying upon an external cloud infrastructure to make this product work in your customers' homes. Tons of memory, virtually unlimited sources. If you're sitting here trying to put in 200, and 20 channel icons, you might actually tap a lot of memory. But if you're just doing strictly sources, the normal number of pages in a media room, you're pretty much dialed at that point. Build quality is a big one. Once you put a Pro Control remote in your hand, you're definitely going to feel that build quality. It is built to stand the test of time. We know these things are going to get beat up. The kids are going to drop them. The dog's going to knock it over off the coffee table. We actually slightly recessed the LCD screen to protect it, to keep it from being broken as well. But these things are very durable. I actually had one come into our RMA department the other day. It was 8 years old. Before it had any issues. So these things really are reliable and durable, especially when you compare it to what our competitors have put out in the marketplace. Phenomenal battery life. You can leave these things off the charger, 1, 2, 3 weeks easily. So your customer's not going to really be complaining about battery life being too short, or this thing stopped in the middle of my usage. There's so many more. Once you get in and see the features, I know you all have 10 more applications that we're not even covering here today, that you can think of that where the Pro Control products can really take care of your business and solve those problems for you. So let's talk about the hardware pieces that make up the .R product lineup. The first product is the Pro 24.R. This is our remote. It does include the charging cradle and power supply in the box. It is a 2.4-inch color touchscreen. It can work standalone, meaning I can actually program this remote control only, graphics all, everything going on, macros, and it'll blast IR out the front of the remote control. So I can work this thing in a perfectly standalone environment with just basically what you see here on the screen and make it work. You can also pair that with the processor should you need to have IR emitters, or again, you've got equipment in a different location, you can add a processor to it. But this remote control will work just basically as you see it, kind of as a standalone. Surprisingly, it is a one-way IR style remote. And like I said, it does have the support for RF or 433. Those of you ever installed a Lutron Radio raw system, you know how rock solid those products are. We're in that same carrier frequency. Most of the security wireless devices are also that carrier frequency. So it is definitely a rock solid frequency spectrum to occupy. We have a very wide IR database. And like I said, we can capture local IR codes if you have something that you need on the fly, and that rechargeable lithium ion battery. The Pro Control Pro 24R Plus remote and cradle retails for $299.95. The processor. So obviously you can add one of these into your project and use the processor with remote control, or you can also use a processor, not with a remote, but instead with an iPhone or an iPad. So the processor is also kind of a gateway for us that also enables you to have a web device in the home controlling the system. So if you had a customer who really didn't want to have a handheld remote control in the house, they could actually do a tablet-based control by adding the ProLink R Plus processor to the home. So again, this thing has the built-in 433 to talk to the remotes. This is also really, really important is this is not a base station. This is actually a processor. So we kind of look at that and say, a lot of the base stations out there, really what they're doing is they're a connection hub is really all they are. All the intelligence is in the remote. And when you press a button, the remote has to transmit all that information into the base station to repeat. Whereas the way we approach it is the remote control is only passing a token command over to the base station. And then the base station actually stores the programming file for what it's controlling. So it runs the macros, flashes the emitters, and all those types of things. So we have a much higher reliability factor when you start looking at what the processor does as compared to a lot of the base stations out there in the business. So really neat. The IR routing, let's say you get all hooked up and you find out you've got emitters on wrong devices. Instead of trying to peel those things off, you can actually reroute those in software. So those are flexible assignment router ports, plus you have adjustment gains for those, turn them up, turn them down. You've got those sense ports on there I was talking about. And we do package 4 emitters in the box for you. Ethernet jack on the front for programming ready to rock and roll. And it's also what enables the iPhone, iPad control. We don't currently have Android support for the system. It's something that early on when Pro Control came to market was not a very popular ask, although lately it has been. So we are working on Android support for this as well. Also, when you're doing your downloads, let's say you make a couple small edits and changes, instead of having to download directly into a remote control, you can actually do wireless programming of your system within the environment. So if you're in home, the fact that this does sit on the network, you can use it for Wi-Fi control as well. The processor also is a $299.95 product as well. Let's talk about Pro Panel for iOS. Let's say you want to get into doing a tablet or a phone for your control. You basically need to start with the processor. So you're going to add in a prolink.r processor in your system. You're going to go ahead and add user licenses. Now, one comes baked in free in the system. Previously, we charged $49 to have that capability with the processor because not everyone was using it. So we just basically had it. Plus, the reason we had the licenses in there is, when a customer brings you a device they want to add into the system, a lot of times you're stuck doing the tech support. So we gave you a profit center to charge the customer for something for basically handling their device. So that's kind of where the licenses come into play. We now include one license for free. You can add additional licenses onto your system. So you'll need one license for each device that you want to control the system. So that's basically how you get a system up and running with iPads and iPhones. Put in a processor, get licenses, and now you have that experience on your wireless devices. Additional licenses are $49 each. You can buy a 5-user license for $129 for your systems. Also, if you forgot to buy one of these when you place your order for Pro Control, don't worry about having to roll the truck off the job site. You can actually go to procontrol.com in the dealer side and actually purchase a license from there, save you leaving the job site, having to go back to the distributor to pick one of these up. So we kind of put that in there as a backup plan for our dealers, making sure you don't lose any money on a system like this, just needing a license. Let's say you get a customer that does have tablet control with a processor, and maybe they do want a candy bar style remote control in the room as a leave behind. We do sell the iPro.8 remote control. This is a really simple companion remote designed to work with your tablets. No LCD, no touchscreen on this one, just a couple of hard buttons, but does give the customer capability of maybe the tablet battery died or you're on the phone, you need to adjust the mute or volume buttons. Now you have a remote control in the room that allows you to control those without having to worry about using your phone or tablet. Those are $149.95 to add into your system as well. We do sell accessories. You can actually have spare cradles if you want one on each side of the room, IR emitters, connecting blocks, charging cables if they get lost, replacement batteries for down the road if the lithium finally goes. We even sell spare battery doors. Again, we realize that some people will abuse these things and you may need to replace some parts. So we do sell spare parts for those as well. So kind of a summary on the .R series here. As we say, right features, right price, and from our perspective, the timing is right now. We didn't design this thing to be a one-to-one. We really didn't design this to really compete head-to-head with different remotes in the marketplace. We looked at the need of the dealers when we designed Pro Control, and that's kind of where Pro Control drops in the marketplace. We look at this and say, based on our conversations we're having today with dealers, and really the key features that you're looking for, Pro Control checks all those boxes and then some in terms of what you're looking for from a replacement remote control. So next question, how do I get started? Great question. Step one, become a dealer. If you're not already signed up with Snap, go ahead and get signed up with Snap. Once you do, hop over to the Pro Control website, go to procontrol.com/SnapAV, fill out your information. This is going to basically create an account on our website for you to go ahead and access the dealer site to download the programming software as well. So once you do that, it basically takes about 24 hours to get you switched on. Once you're inside the dealer site, as I say, you're going to get educated here. So we got training, we got video modules, we got cut sheets. All those things are going to be available to you behind the dealer site, including Pro Control Studio. And that is the software that's going to help you get up and running and get those things programmed. And then last step on number 3 on here, stock the trucks, right? There's your Pro 24R Plus remote control cradle bundle. You've got your prolink.R Plus, which is the processor. And of course, you have all those accessories. And like Gary was talking about, I know a couple guys came on after Gary said this, but let's revisit this promotion. This is a killer promotion that's been targeted. If you've got this email, this was sent to you, obviously, to talk about the promotion. But SnapAV has basically put together an awesome discount bundle here for new customers to try the Pro Control product line. They're actually giving you 25% off everything Pro Control, which is a crazy, crazy discount that they're putting out there to the world. So definitely take advantage of it. It is time sensitive. So just after the tax man and you file on April 15th, this promotion does end on April 16th. So it does expire at that point, but give us a try, test out the software. We're giving you such a great discount for you to evaluate this product. And of course, from a support structure, you had, I said, when we pass the deck out, you'll have our contact information. Feel free to reach out to us, ask questions. You'll help you design systems. If there's further product questions, dump those in the Q&A window. We'll answer those questions here as we go along, because we're about to go into the angel session here, which is going to be what I call the Pro Control Studio, 6-step quick start demo. At the bottom of our software is this little window, and in there it kind of walks you through step by step in terms of how to set up a system. So your first time deploying one of these or sitting on your office programming one of these up becomes a very simple process. But yeah, if you have questions, put those in the window. John and I are going to be moderating that here. But Angel is going to take the next step here and walk you through really how fast you can actually do a Pro Control system. So I'm going to do a stop share here, Angel, and let you take it from here, sir.
All righty. Let me open this up here and share this. And just guys verify that I'm on here. You guys can see my Pro Control.
You are correct, sir.
Yep.
Okay, very good. All right, guys. Well, thank you for giving me this little time to show you this. It's going to be an express way of programming. It's as easy as apple pie, as that's what the saying goes. But I've seen my wife bake apple pie. It takes about 25 minutes or 45 minutes rather, and a lot of ingredients. We don't have that opportunity here. We're going to do this a lot faster. So when you open up the software, as Jim mentioned, the first thing I want you to know is that when you open up for the first time, you will see this little section down here, which is a quick step, and there's about 6 of them. So it basically takes you step by step as to what you need to do. And that's kind of like what I'm going to show you today. And this stays on there if you want. And, once you get to that point where you're comfortable, you can get rid of that. But what are we looking at? We have one window here, which are Pro Control devices. So that's your remote, such as in this case, we're going to be talking about the 24R series remote, right? So we're going to go ahead and put our R remote in here and an iPad and our processor. And then here in this window, we have our control devices. Well, those are the sources that we're going to play with. And the sources that we're going to use for this particular exercise is a Samsung TV, Yamaha receiver, DirecTV, Sony Blu-ray player, and a Roku. Once you get these devices in here, this window here becomes kind of like your centerpiece to start working on many different things. The properties of your devices. So you'll see once we add them, this is where you will start seeing how you can change things, as well as the aesthetic look of your interface that you're going to present to your end user. And of course, this is where we'll also add our commands to create our macro steps. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to go over here to this add command here with the plus sign, and we're going to go ahead and add our remote control first. And it'll give you a graphical representation of what it looks like. And then you can go ahead and use the default name, or we can change it, which is probably a good thing to do. And we'll say this is the living room, and we'll say okay. And then we'll add our processor on there by hitting the add button again. And we'll go take our prolink. And again, you can change that, but we'll leave it for now for this exercise. And we'll add an iPad. And we'll hit OK. So now we have our three devices that we're going to be using to control this room. And so now let's just go ahead and start adding our sources. We come down to the control device window, and we go up to our add, and let's select our infrared devices that we're going to put in here. So I can go ahead and start searching right from here, and we'll start off with the Samsung TV. And as you can see, the minute I start typing that in, I start pulling up my Samsung. Here's my most models. Our IR database has been cleaned up really nicely. So it gives us the ability to go ahead and give you just one IR code set that you need to work with. Here's our control device name. It just says TV by default, but I'm going to go ahead and call this Smart TV. And I'll leave the pages in here, which you can preview if you want. And I'm going to go ahead and leave them in so that we can use the Smart TV functions out of there. We'll hit OK, and let's go ahead and continue adding this in. Select my infrared device again, and now I'm going to go ahead and select a Yamaha RXA, and here we go. I'll go ahead and select that guy, and I'll change this out again, my control device, to say Yamaha ABR. In this case, I don't necessarily need to add pages to this because I don't want my customer messing around with what I've done, as far as setting up their DSP functions, and then Top Gun doesn't sound the way they want it to. Then I'm going to go ahead and select my DirecTV. And we'll go to the Genie, and I will call this DirecTV. And I'll go ahead and select the pages that I want for both my remote and my iPad and hit OK. And then let's add our Sony Blu-ray player. And I'll go down to most models. I will select that. I'll keep the pages on there for both my remote and for my iPad. And then last but not least, I promised my customer I would give them a media device such as a Roku. I'll give them the Roku Ultra. Let's change this from Media Manager to Roku. And I will select the Roku for both my devices. I hit OK. And now I have pretty much everything I need as far as what I promised my customer. Now, as far as the properties are concerned, I want to show you what I mean by that. It's when I select my living room Pro 24R here, I have the ability to make some changes. Okay, again, this is just housekeeping. Do you want to give them the tilt switch capability? How do you want the backlighting? Would like bright, lower? Some people don't want something that bright. And how long is it going to stay on before it times out in order to save batteries? But as you heard Jim mention before, batteries last pretty long, so maybe not necessary. And then when you get into the processor, of course, you have a little bit more over here to play with. The ports on the back. Maybe you want to, instead of port 1 through 4, which is fairly generic, you want to say Samsung TV, DirecTV, and so forth. And then you can go ahead and start adding some more information as to what location you're in and the time that you need, whether Eastern Standard Time, Pacific, Mountain, and Central, and so forth. iPad doesn't have anything, but our smart TVs, again, we can decide whether or not we're going to send the IR directly from a processor, or as Jim mentioned, you also have the ability to just send this out directly from the remote by just choosing the actual drop down here and say, hey, I just want IR coming straight out of the remote. So keep that in mind that you have all these capabilities. Now, after all this is said and done, I'm actually pretty much finished with my programming, and we can go ahead and take a peek at that. If I double click on the remote, I immediately open up my page here, and I'll zoom in this a little bit so you guys can see. Maybe difficult to see remotely, but there's green check marks on all these devices, including the hard buttons. And if you look at the hard buttons, there's some green buttons on here. Well, if I select these green buttons, what it's doing is it's a global button. So this is for your volume, and this is going to go out to every one of your pages, regardless of whether you're on the Blu-ray, you're on the DirecTV, the Roku, or your smart apps. And again, we can start making some changes to buttons here on the aesthetic side of things, how you want things to look, what size text you want on here. Do you want to make this icon a little bit bigger or smaller? Vincent's going to go through some of that, and you guys will appreciate some of the advanced, the power features that you have actually when it comes to graphics. But when we go onto this tab here for macro, this is where the auto programming has started. It's telling the remote on the remote side that it's going to go right to a please wait page. Well, what does that look like? Let's move over here to this current page, and you have this little drop down, and here's where you can like kind of cycle through each one of the pages that we might have. Or you can go ahead and select the pages icon here, open these up, and you can see all the pages that are available to you for all your sources at a glance. And then from there, you can select them. So if we stick here to our homepage where we're at, and we look at our Blu-ray player, it's going to go to that please wait page. It'll wait 4 seconds, and then it'll switch over to Blu-ray, which it should. In the meantime, as you can see here, all the commands that you need are being added. Now, this is the best thing we could come up with based on what we think, hey, you're going to put this on HDMI 1, and you plan on putting this on the input for the Blu-ray player on your Yamaha. If that isn't correct and you have different inputs that you want to enter, then you could just immediately just hit add here, open up your devices, and then look for your smart TV, and then start looking for your inputs, and then select which input you actually plan on putting it in. Maybe you want to put it on HDMI 2. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in there. And then now that I have this guy open here, I'm just going to close this out or delete this rather. And now I'm on input HDMI 2. So as far as tweaking your macros, it's very easy to either delete or add and modify whatever it is you need to do. If it's more than 4 seconds that you need, then go ahead and choose the time that you need. Let's select it, and let's change the delay on there. And the same thing goes for all your other commands, your other icons that are in here. So you can see all the macros are done for you for this part. And then, of course, if I want to do power off, I can go to my power off page. And this is set up for me as well. And in this case here, what the power off is saying, hey, did I accidentally hit that button with my big thumbs, or did I want to continue with what I was watching? So I can go ahead and cancel, and it's going to change to a previous page. Now, again, a lot of this can be tweaked. The graphics, the way this looks, maybe you don't like what we did. You have your own ideas, and that's fine. Vincent's going to show you some of that. But once we're done with all this modifying that we need to do, if any, then all we have to do at this point is hit our download button here, let it build our program file, and then we'll have both our remote and our processor that we'll be able to update by putting our USB port on there and then selecting this that's on the network. And then once we have them available, we'll go ahead and download to the selected devices. You can hand over your remote and get paid. So that's what I have for you guys. If you have any questions, I guess we'll be monitoring the chat window. But at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Vincent, who's going to show you guys a little bit more on the power features that we have here. So let me go ahead and stop sharing. And there we go.
Thanks, Angel. Thank you, Jim. My name is Vincent. I'm from the dealer experience team. And as Angel demonstrated, Pro Control can be programmed in a matter of minutes. What I'm going to do my best to show you, however, is the power features that are built into the software. These are features you can use to both set yourself apart from other installers, or facilitate those stubborn requests from the customer, or solve problems really. So some of these power features you might use, some of them you might not use. And if you have a background in Harmony, URC, or no background at all, you're going to love Pro Control. One last thing, being the dealer experience team, part of buying the Pro Control system is the ability to interact with us. We want you to give us a call. We want you to help us help you design systems, help you with bids. If you have any program roadblocks, we also have a dedicated tech support team. So this isn't just a here you go and figure it out kind of product. We're here to help you. And I really hope you guys take me up on that, because that's what we do. And we love talking to our dealers. So again, what Angel showed you will get you right through the system. Everything is pretty much programmed for you here. Your television, your Blu-ray player, and I'm showing you the iPad right now, the Roku device. This is all programmed. All these macros, the check marks are kind of small, but they're filled in, all filled in with commands. So really, you could leave at this point. Maybe you'll tweak around a few of the homepage macros, but at this point you can leave. Let's go to the other remote too. So what I'm going to show you is some of the graphics first, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. We can expand this on the screen. I don't want to make it look too weird. Okay, so first I'm going to show you how to manipulate some of the home page graphics. Now, graphics are a great part of Pro Control. You can use your own graphics. You can go and download if you see a cool icon for a Blu-ray or a DirecTV and you want to use that, no problem. In fact, I have a directory that I created on my computer, and I just used it to download images any chance I got. If I saw something that looked cool, I download it. And over time, I've developed a lot of images that I could use for my projects. Some of them I've deleted because they don't really translate well. Maybe they're not a transparent background, or maybe they just don't look good once I put it into a remote, but many of them are really nice. So if you go to the images folder in Pro Control, we give you a lot of canned graphics. So you don't have to rely on, getting creative with just on your own prowess. You can use our built-in graphics. And what we do is we give you different graphic libraries. We sort them by the type of graphic they are. So we have channel icons. So you'll see all these different channel icons you can add to your systems. We give you some of the Shelby template for the iPad and the regular remote controls. So you'll see backgrounds and buttons and things like that. We also give you source icons, and those can be anything from different services or activity icons like watch cable, even some buttons, like different parts of buttons you can use. So we give you a really great graphic library where you can get creative. I created a little graphic library myself on my computer called My Graphics. And I basically said, aim the image folder here. If you click on image folder, it'll let you aim this at any directory on your computer where your graphics are stored. Mine are stored in this folder here under fun stuff called My Graphics. And these graphics, which you're looking at, are just stuff I've downloaded over time. Hey, if I use them, I'll use them. If I don't, I don't. And I could actually search through this by just typing in some text. So BLU for Blu-ray. And I could go in here and I can swap these images simply by dragging and dropping. Maybe I'll replace this with a colorful version of that last graphic. Maybe I'll go and look for a DirecTV icon and I can bring that in. Let's look for a Roku, and I have some Roku choices as well. For a smart TV, I'm just going to look for smart, and I could bring in a Samsung icon if I want, or I could bring in the actual television. So you have complete realm over your graphics, and that's basically using homepage graphics. You could also swap graphics on your regular devices. So for example, on my Blu-ray, if I wanted to give my client, let's say, a Netflix button, let's sacrifice this subtitle. We're not going to need this for now. So I'm going to go to my properties. And remember, every time you click on something in Pro Control, there's always a property window. I'm clicking on the subtitle button. Well, here's the subtitle property for that button. I'm going to erase subtitle by removing the text here. I can change font color and all that. But what I want to do here is I want to put a Netflix button on this. So I'll go to my images. I'll look for the Netflix. I'll just drag this in here. And then I'll go to the macro here. And since this is still reflecting the subtitle macro, I'm going to delete that. Then I'm going to click add. And I'm going to go find my device. And these are called macro steps. These help us build macros. We could do some really cool things with these things. We could use the power sense to figure out if that sense input is triggered. If somebody opens a garage door or something like that, we can send a macro. Or if an alarm system goes off, we can trigger in a macro. I'm going to go to the page link here. I'm sorry, my devices here. And I'm going to look for my Sony Blu-ray commands. And I see a Netflix command right here. It was easy to find. They're in alphabetical order. And I'm just going to drag my Netflix in or double click it, which I like to do. So it's very easy to change things around, reprogram things, and do stuff like that. Let's take a look at some channel icons next. So I'm going to go to my cable interface here. Let's see, my DirecTV interface. And I'm going to create some channel icons. Now, you're going to notice on top here, it says screen 1 of 2. That means that there's another frame on my page. What is a frame? Well, a frame is another page that you can get to simply by using gesture control. Yes, you can swipe the Pro 24Z remote and it will advance to the next frame, which in this case is a bunch of channel favorites. Now, we just guessed on what you would like for channel favorites. But if I go to my images and then I go to my channel icons bucket, I can go and swap these out with other images. Let's throw in Animal Planet here. Let's throw in Fox Sports Network. Here's one of my favorite channels, Major League Baseball channel. So you could bring in these channels yourself and program them to do whatever you want. Okay, and again, programming these is easy. Click on the button, click on macros, then open up the directory for the commands, the DirecTV. So how about 342 for this channel, or 242 for this channel? This channel, 478, and so on and so on and so on. It's very easy to program these channel icons. You can do them in about two minutes. So once you're done with that, your client will have his favorite channels available at a glance. Now let's take a look at our iPad, because we've been leaning on our remote control too often. You're going to notice a lot of situations where you're going to see something called a viewport. I just want to explain to you what that is. And it says right click to edit. So I'm going to edit the viewport. What a viewport is areas on the screen that either you can create or we give you automatically, like in this case, which will allow you to gesture control through the different windows. So in other words, I could create a viewport on a single page and let the client gesture control through that single page on a little window called a viewport. I'll try to show you this in action as well. But with the viewport here, I can do things. Let's go to our images here for our iPad. Let's look for our Shelby iPad images. Now I could do different things like change the background. I can't do it in the viewport. I got to do it here. Let me go to another page to show you a better example. So if I want to change a background, I'll just drop this in, and I could just drop these things in and it will change. Anything with a yellow icon next to it is a background. And once you drag that background in, that one must be big, it will change the background. Okay, and then you simply drag and drop it into your screen. So you really can give this thing as much of a different look as possible. You can even make your own backgrounds. Maybe your client has some nice vacation pictures and so on and so forth. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create, and you'll see viewports here. There's a viewport on this top part and this bottom part. Now, why did the viewports get created? Well, we wanted to give the guy one single page, but we wanted to have him be able to flick through maybe 50, 60, or as many channel favorites as he wants. on top here. Why do we give him a viewport up here? So he can advance between his transport keys and his, main commands. And it's very easy to create your own little viewport. So what you could do is, if you wanted to put these channels on their own viewport, I'm just going to copy these real quick. I'm going to select them all. I'm going to just do let's do that again. Sorry. I'm going to right click and copy these. And then I'm going to, or better yet, let me cut them. And now I can go and draw my own viewport here. So I can go and create my own little viewport. I'll go and edit my viewport here and paste. I must have to make it bigger. Make this a little bigger because it doesn't fit. Now I can paste my channels in here. And now I can advance to another page here and maybe give him other commands here. So I can go to my images folder and then click on the iPad images and then look for some buttons that I can give the client. So maybe I can create some buttons here that do something else. And these buttons come in different transparencies. You can make them a little lighter. We give you probably 10 different transparencies. So you could go really light, or you could go somewhere in the middle, or really dark. But the idea now is the client will be able to go into this screen, which will start out on his number pad and be able to advance. So that's our viewports. It adds a lot of power to your programming. And it's great because this is only a single page, yet we can give the client countless amounts of icons. And to the client, it'll just look like a regular screen. He'll just be able to use gesture control to flip through the different options. So let's see, we're going to go create a little, we're going to go and create some graphic, some URL jumps. So let's go back to the home page for this one. And I'm going to create on the viewport here, which is the home page. I'm just going to make a copy of this Roku button. And I'm going to put it over here. And now maybe I want to give my client, not another activity, but I want to give them like a direct launch to something. So maybe the client is old, maybe they're not technically sophisticated. So I want to give them a jump to Roku, one of the apps in Roku. So what I could do is first I can go to my macros here and I could click add. And just to get an idea of what Roku has, I could go to my devices, click on Roku, and you can see that Roku has all these direct app launches. So maybe the client doesn't want to navigate around Roku because he always uses Hulu or something. So, well, let's do that. Let's go look for an image here and we'll select all libraries so that we could find it easily. And let's just search for Hulu. We'll see a couple of options. Just drag it in. That's too small. Just drag in the other one. That's a little better. So what we could do now is we can go into our macro and we could remove these macro steps that were here when we copy and pasted the Roku button. And now we can go and add commands here. So we'll click on add, devices, Roku, and then we'll input the Hulu. Of course, you might want to add other commands. Maybe I shouldn't have deleted all those commands. Maybe you still want to turn on the television. So you want to go and click the power on key. Lots of commands in the Samsung series. So power on the Samsung, and then go to the input on Hulu. Of course, you want to turn on the receiver as well. So you'll put those in as well. So another thing you can do real quick is if you want, you could go to the DirecTV and copy this and then go into the Hulu button and you can paste the macro. You could replace the existing macro. And now we can delete the DirecTV power on here and we can make this, let's go click add here. And now we'll make it go to the Roku input for Hulu. And we'll make sure that it jumps to the right page, which is going to be Hulu. So we'll go and give them Roku control after that. So you can quickly give your client his own commands as well. Another cool thing you can do on the iPad, and I'll just make another copy of this button and put it over here, is that you can also give the client app buttons. So let's say the client wants to access his favorite app from his Pro Control remote, in this case an iPad. we can go and give him a launch URL. So let's go to our devices here and let's click on a button. So we're going to just click on, let's see, we're going to go click on the properties for this button here. In the properties, you're going to see a launch URL here. And we give you a couple of URLs. We give you an Apple URL, a Sonos, Nuvo, or Kaleidoscape. Let's give this client a Sonos URL. Now, it's important to know that you could use any URL, and we do have a tech note available that has all different URL jumps. So you don't have to use the ones only that we give you. You can also use the tech note and find any of the other URLs. So let's make this jump to Sonos, but it only makes sense to give them a Sonos image, right? So let's look for Sonos in our graphic library. And there's quite a lot of Sonoses. So you'll pick whatever one you like. Maybe this one makes sense, and you can do that as well. It's important to know also, and I'm just going to go back to my Pro 24 now, you could also change font colors and things like that. So if I want to go and change maybe the color of this DirecTV font, or even the way what it says, let's go to the properties and let's go over this. I can change different things. I can go and change the text. Maybe I want to call this Watch DTV or something like that. I can change the white font, which it already is, and I can use the color spectrum here to give it any color I want. So maybe a yellow color. I can change the size of the font. I can make it bigger, maybe 15. Okay, I can make it bold. Right now it says no. I'll make that yes, and it will bold the font. I can also align it vertically and horizontally. Now, another thing I want to show you is padding. Since this soap icon is taking up so much of the button, it kind of doesn't look proportionate to the other buttons. So what I can do is go down here to the icon padding. And padding is basically the space between the walls of the bitmap and the actual icon in the middle. So in this case, the top, left, right, and bottom, I can add padding, therefore making the image in the middle smaller. So let's go and add some severe padding. Let's add 20 pixels to the top. And you can see this being manipulated already. 20 to the bottom, 20 to the bottom, 20 to the left, and jump out. And now you'll see it's much smaller. So that's also handy with buttons on the home page. For example, if you have a button, and I'll just go to my images here and just find a button. I'll go to my graphics because I know a lot of these are large. Let's see if I can find a really large button here. What if you wanted to give the client a football button? Let's see if I have a football button here. If I drag that into the interface, it's quite large. So again, go to my properties, go to my padding, just add some padding to the top, right, bottom, and left, and you'll be able to shrink the image on the button. So you have some obvious great advantage with that. You can change the look of a button with the same exact icon. Also alignment. To show you alignment, let's go to our iPad Roku page. Now, this is a cool interface for Roku, but it doesn't give the client a lot of options with selecting apps. So let's sacrifice this button. I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to delete the button icon in the middle. I'm going to go to my macro here. I'm going to wipe out this macro. I want this button to jump to another entire page so that I can have a bunch of icons for the client. Okay, so let's do that. Let's go to the top here and let's click add. And I'm going to click add a blank page. Let's give this page a title. Let's call it Roku Favorites and click OK. Now, this is just a simple white canvas. We can do whatever we want. Think of this like a painting canvas. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my Roku page. I'm going to borrow this header. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it into my Roku Favorites page. All right, I got a header. Great. Now let's go to my images. I'm going to go to my Shelby iPad images. I'm going to put the background in that I lost by adding a blank page. All right, I got my page back. Now I'm going to continue on this Shelby. I'm going to go to the bottom and I'm going to select some, maybe too big. I'm going to select some graphics that I can use for my channel favorites. Now, we have different sizes for you, and you can pick whatever size you want. Maybe that's too small for an iPad. That's way too big. So you can pick whatever ones you want, and you can pick the transparency on it. Some are going to be really dark, some are going to be light. You'll be able to see through it. So let's go and just make a copy and paste of these buttons. Let me just copy and paste 3 here. Make another copy and paste of these. So this is kind of a mess. How do we deal with this quickly? I can align these buttons. So I can click the 3 buttons and align them to the last button I selected. I can use my alignment tools. That's why we have all these little gadgets and gadgets on the toolbar, because they help you manipulate those graphics so you can align them, make them the same equal size and stuff like that. So let's align these icons to the top. And now I'm faced with a problem. They're not evenly spaced. So let's select all 3 and let's click on the command here, equalize. And if you highlight it, it shows you equalize spacing across, and that will equalize spacing. However, now I have a problem that they're not centered on the screen. So I can click the center button with them selected as well. Then I can quickly align these buttons to each of these buttons pretty quickly by just aligning them to the left of each of these buttons. Whoops. Thank God we have an undo. So I can align this to the top of this. And now I can go and align this to that. So you have the ability to align buttons pretty easily. I could select all of these, and I can center them vertically and horizontally on the screen. Now I'm going to go add some images here. So let's go to our image library. But first, let's go and look at some of our what channels that Roku has for us. So I'm going to click on the add again, just to get a glance at some of the macros Roku has, so we know what channels we're going to give the client. Here's an Amazon button. Great. So I'm going to click on the image bucket, and I'm going to look for my source and zone icons large. That's good for an iPad. Let's look for a Amazon button. Amazon Prime. There it is. Let's look for let's see. We have a Netflix, Hulu. Well, we already did Hulu, but let's do it again. Who cares? And then let's do maybe an HBO. Do we have one? HBO now. Perfect. Let's see if we have a Sling TV. Do we have one? Yes, we do. So we have a full array of graphics for you that are really going to cater to your remotes. Here's a Vudu. And last but not least, let's do a YouTube. And then all we have to do is go click on the first one, go to macro, and just click on the command. First one's Amazon, so click and put Amazon. Go to the next one, Hulu. Next one, HBO Go. Next one is Sling. So you're just going to go and add these commands to the system. Simple. You have everything you need. And now the client's got a great interface. And then YouTube. The only thing left to do is go back to that first page here. And now we're going to make a button here. Let's call this, we'll go to the properties, and let's call this My Apps. Okay. And then we'll make this, we'll make it kind of big. Let's make it 14 is good, and we'll make the font white so the client can read it. All that's left to do now is program a page link on this. So I can go and grab my page links. What page you want to jump to? Well, here's our Roku favorites we created. And so that will jump there. So really easy to navigate, really easy to build. Let's finish off with some personalization. We want to give you the ability to personalize your interfaces. Maybe you want to give the client a nice little welcome page on his Pro Control remote. So when he powers off the system and then it jumps to the power off command here, you have a welcome page it jumps to. Right now it's jumping to the home page when it finishes the macro. So let's make it jump to our own little welcome page. So I'm going to click add. Now, you could also add pages from a template, and we give you all the template pages here. You could preview them by clicking on this. And we also give you the ability to merge, import pages, or merge pages from either another current system, another device in the current system, or another system file. So once you personalize these pages, you can use them over and over again in projects. So let's go and make our welcome page real quick. Click add. We'll make a blank page here. We're going to call this welcome screen. And the client gave us a baby picture. We put the baby picture on our desktop. So let's aim the image folder at our desktop. Okay. And there's the baby picture on our desktop showing up. Let's drag it in. And now we have the picture. But let's go and put some text on this. Let's give them an idea, a welcoming message. So I'm going to go and click on the rectangle button here. It's going to draw a rectangle as it says. So I'm just going to draw a rectangle across the screen. I'm not worried about making it look good yet. First, I'm going to go into the properties and I'm going to say Jones Theater. I'm going to make this large. I'll make it 15. And I'm going to change the color to black. Now, the problem is that I'm going to go back to select mode. So when I can grab things, it selects them instead of drawing buttons. Now, the problem with this is, first of all, it's a different color as the background, and it has a border around it. So show border on the button border and fill over here. I'm going to say no. Border color, I don't want it to be blue. Oops, I'm sorry, fill color, I'm sorry. I don't want it to be white like it is now. So I'm going to click transparent. And what that's going to do is blend it into the background. Okay. Now, if I want to disable this so the client can't press it like a button, I could go up to the button options here, and under inactive, I can say yes, make it on that inactive. And what that'll do is it won't respond to the touch. Or I can make this active and have this button, and I'm just making it a little bigger, jump to the home page for the client. So let's go here, click add, page link, home. And now when the client presses that, it'll go to the home page. To the client, it'll just look like this. So now he has a little welcome. The last thing we need to do, of course, is go to our power off here and make this jump to that welcome page instead of the home page. And we'll delete the home page jump. So what this will do is, first, it'll have execute a command that says start running the processor controls. Okay, and then it will change to the please wait page. Then it will pause for 4 seconds to give these macros time to run, and then it will change the page to the welcome screen. Power off all the devices, and of course you can add anything other than that you want. So that's what we have. It's really easy to program. Again, you don't need to, and you really don't have to. And there's a lot of other power features that are also part of Pro Control, such as flags, where we teach you how to track power commands. Maybe you have a cable box that doesn't have discrete power. You know, the ability to toggle codes, the ability to create delays in your commands, and other commands in the macro steps that allow you to be more productive. So please catch one of our trainings. I'm going to turn it back to Gary, and we're going to close up. So thanks so much for attending. And if you have any questions, we're always here to help.
Thanks, Vin.
Yeah, take it away, Jim. Why don't you encompass what we have there, and I'll follow it up with sales stuff.
Absolutely. So definitely appreciate everyone taking the time here on a late Friday afternoon for some of us, or a mid-afternoon for you. I'm sure there's still some things to wrap up and do. But yeah, we obviously we dove into the R series, show you some really cool things. You'll also keep in mind that, you know, with the software, you know, if you have a project or a bundle that you typically do, you know, it is possible for you to replicate. So you can actually import templates, so you're not reinventing the wheel on every single project, you know, as you go through those. So there's some really neat things that you can do with the product platform. Obviously, we highly encourage you to take a look at those things. I'm going to pull the presentation back up here, so you can pull that promotion back up here one more time for us, Gary, so that we can, oh, maybe, why can I not share? I can't share. My share button's great.
I think Vinny's got his hands all over it. No, I'm just teasing. You know what? It's really simple, guys. We are offering 25% off everything Pro Control. Okay, if that is not an incentive, and we don't usually do this. This is about training. But guys, there is no better time to get involved. We've shown you how to do it. You've got the support staff here, plus all of our SnapAV local stores are well-versed in Pro Control. So guys, there is no excuse.
Yep.
Talk to us. Let's do this. Review this with your teams over the weekend. Let's set up jobs. Let's take a look at this seriously. We have got inventory. It is on the shelves, 25% off. You're not going to find a discount like that. I don't know. I haven't seen one yet like this. And I don't wonder, was it just out of the niceness out of RTI and Dawson and Jim offered this? Or maybe it was Snap as well, kicking in a few dollars. I think it was a little of both. But bottom line is we want it in your hands. And it's a perfect opportunity. It's all about control. Vinny, awesome job, man. Thank you so much for making that look so easy. Angel, you're the man. Thank you, guys. You know what? You guys talked about what's the secondary thing? Where do these guys go from here? Where do you think level 2 might be? And how can I get you guys back in the next 8 weeks?
Right. Obviously, they can dig more into some of the more advanced features. So we can obviously help them. There's some modules on the Pro Control website. We are putting together a .z presentation as well. So there are some things on the product enhancement side we're working on behind the scenes. As soon as all those things wrap up, we'll do a presentation on the .z so you can really see the comprehensive family. Again, we've learned some things in the field here in the last couple of weeks. We're making some changes to the product family, but we're looking forward to showing dealers what more they can really do with the platform. And if Pro Control doesn't have all the features you need, hey, Volutone and Gary and the guys out there are great supporters of RTI. They'll be happy to get you taken care of, as well as the other locals. So Custom Plus, AllNet, MRI, all of them sell our RTI products. You can work with them as well to come on board with RTI. And then the sky is the limit from there. So if Pro Control can't do it, RTI can.